am Deidre Quinn, and welcome to Pending and Trending, a podcast that started in real estate and grew into so much more. Here, we talk about the power of building wealth, creating opportunities, and designing a life that lasts for generations. With expert guests and real conversations, my mission is simple: to help you elevate your journey and build the legacy you deserve. Welcome back to Pending and Trending. I'm here today with Karla Ukman. She's the founder, wealth planner, and financial coach for Artemis Wealth Management in St. Louis. She holds security registrations all over the country in more than 15 states. Through her firm, Karla helps women and marginalized communities build wealth on their terms with strategy, confidence, and clarity. With over 12 years of financial industry experience, she's worked with high net worth individuals, business owners, and first-generation wealth builders. Karla is also deeply active in philanthropic advising, serving on the board of the St. Louis Council of Charitable Gift Planners, and holding certification from the Philanthropic Institute for Professional Advisors. Welcome, Karla. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I was looking at your website and all of the things that you are involved in. And let's start with just building wealth when you didn't inherit it. So what does that look like to be the first in your family to build wealth?
Yeah. It means that we are building a foundation from scratch, especially since we didn't come from wealth before. And it can be very heavy, it can be challenging. And when we're trying to build wealth from scratch, we weren't taught financial foundations. The system also doesn't teach us financial literacy, and it's a lot. And we have to work through the processes that we take ourselves through, as well as work through the negative talk that we've been having internally, and then also society puts pressure on us. So there's a lot that we have to work through when it comes to building generational wealth.
For sure. And how does education and access to education and help level the playing field?
The wealthy have been using financial education forever. I mean, for centuries. So having just even knowledge of how a budget works or how the stock market works and just simple tools like that, the wealthy use those consistently. So when we have that just general knowledge, it helps eliminate not only the fear of the stock market, or if we're doing something wrong, we a lot of times just shut down and don't do anything at all. So having just the basics of what is life insurance, what is estate plan, what do we need to do to even start building for retirement, just having that knowledge really helps us start moving forward with our financial and building wealth.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me that for the most part, this is not even taught in any of our
No.
education classes throughout for schooling, whether it's elementary school, high school, even in college. So it is certainly something to really think about from that aspect as well. What are some practical steps that people can take to flip the script or make those changes and take control of their financial future?
Yeah, there's a couple different things that we can do. And practical steps would be one, defining your goals. That's one of the things that I talk to my clients about is what do you want to ultimately do? What is wealth to you? What does financial freedom look like for you? And unless we know where we're going, we can't create a roadmap to get there. So I always encourage everyone to just sit down and really think about where do we want to be? Where do we want to be in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years? And I know it's hard to think about past even 10 years for a lot of us, but do we want to move? Do we want to purchase a business? Do we want to retire? Meaning, do we have a shift in where we are currently, not necessarily staying in our business or our job? So that's the first step that I encourage everyone to take, because then we can start looking at how do we position our money in order to reach those certain goals. So for example, if we want to purchase a home in the next few years, how much do we need to put down for a payment? And then also, what does our credit look like? And do we want to stay in this home for a long period of time, or do we want to eventually purchase another property and rent this one out? So it'll help you start building the wealth that you're desiring when you first start laying out your ultimate wealth goals.
So start with defining your goals. And then what are some small strategic steps or actions that create the biggest long-term impact?
Yeah, know where your money's going. I work with a very wide range of clients. I have people that are just starting, and then I have multimillionaires. And one thing that they always have in common when we start working together is they don't know where their money's going. And I don't like to use the word budget. That's the key word that society uses. And it sounds like we're restricting ourselves. We're not restricting ourselves. What we're doing is we're understanding where our cash flow is going. And when we understand where our cash is going, then we can put that into different investment accounts or pay down debt, whatever that looks like. But the first key is, how are we spending our money? Are we using too much to go out to eat? Are we spending too much on clothing? Whatever that looks like for us. And that is going to be the biggest impact first, is understanding where our money is going.
That's a great tip that makes a big impact, right? So let's talk about using money as a tool, and how can women specifically shift from fear-based financial decisions to empowered decisions.
Yeah. The biggest thing for us as women is we have not been at the table for very long when it comes to wealth building. It hasn't been since 1974 that we could have a credit card or bank account or a mortgage without a man signing off on it. So we've had a lot of societal impressions since we were young put onto us, and we have to understand that these are myths. We are good with money. We are good at math, because that's another myth that we hear a lot growing up. Having wealth and building wealth has nothing to do with being good at math. It's being disciplined, understanding where our goals are, understanding how we want to get there, and using the resources out there that have been there for the wealthy. And what I mean by that is, first create the foundation, and then utilizing different types of strategies and accounts out there available. And this will really help us start growing the wealth that we deserve.
Wow, that year of 1974 is really something to take note of. That really isn't all that long ago, right?
No.
So why is wealth building a different journey than earning income? And let's look at that talk about that from a big picture standpoint for our listeners.
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. So, earning is just money coming as an inflow to you. It's about, how do we maximize every single dollar that's coming into your possession, and what do we do to maximize each dollar, and how do we keep that? And that can go by maximizing our earning potential, meaning, is our dollar being exposed to unnecessary risk like tax exposure or inflation, or we're not getting growth on our money? And one of the things that I see a lot of is clients are putting money into different accounts, and there's no purpose for it. And so when we're bringing a lot of money into our possession, are we actually maximizing it and doing everything we possibly can to stretch that dollar as much as possible? Because that's what the wealthy do. The wealthy do not let their dollars just sit, and they do not have just an account over here, an account over here, and with no purpose. We have to have purpose for our money in order for it to grow.
That's really important what you just said, right? That you have to have purpose for it to grow. And can you just give us some examples of that and from how you navigate that perhaps?
Yeah.
How you help people navigate that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I see a lot of clients do is they put money into a savings account, a high yield account, whatever that looks like, and they're like, I'm making 4 or 5% on my money. But if inflation has been on average 2.9% and we're making 4 or 5% on our money, plus then we could be paying taxes on that annually, we're actually losing money then. We're
Hmm.
not making anything. If banks had to put on their bank statements for clients the inflation rate and how much money you lost in your savings account, people wouldn't put too much money into a savings account. Now, let me be clear, you need to have a savings account. That is the base for all wealth building. We have to have enough money in our savings. But the biggest thing is I see people scared of investing their money. They're like, oh, it's risky. I don't know what to do. And that's part of the financial education, the lack of financial education and support. But also, there is no risk free investment. And that includes putting money into a savings account because we're losing purchasing power to inflation.
So how much do you expect people to have or should they have in a savings account? Is there a certain amount for people? And then after that, when you recommend they invest the remainder. So basically, you build up your savings account to a certain amount. What is that amount? And, or is it a multiplier based on their bills or income? Is there a set amount?
Yeah. So I work in the financial planning space. So we have financial planning calculators that actually share with us how much money do we need in a savings account based off of taxes, inflation, debt, those type of things. The easiest calculation that we always hear is 3 months, 6 months of expenses at the max. So that can be different for every single person depending on their expenses. So there's not a set amount. We do want to make sure at minimum that we have 3 months to 6 months in our savings account. And one of the misconceptions that is out there is that you need to have a certain amount of money to start investing. You do not. The sooner that you start investing, the better off you'll be in the future. And that could be $10 a week. That could be $10 a month that you start putting in an investment account. You start with $100 and you put something in there every single month. The reason that I say month is because now we're growing that investment and we're utilizing compounding interest. The other misconception is we need to pay off all of our debt before we start investing. That is also a misconception. In the financial planning world, that is not what we say or recommend. You need to be doing both, paying off debt, investing, even if it's a small amount for investing, and having a savings account.
Right. So you want to be doing all three at the same time.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
What is one habit or mindset shift that can change a listener's financial life?
Money is not a bad word. Wealth is not bad. And we're taught at a young age that having money and wealth is greedy, and it is not. Wealth is power, wealth is stability, wealth can change generations, and it is not a bad word. And a lot of my clients come to me, and especially first generational wealth builders, and when we've never been exposed to the amount of wealth that we have started building, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of societal narratives that you see even on social media of, oh, this person has all this money, they must be a bad person. Money is a tool. Money does not define who you are. It's what you do with it. So that's what I would share with people listening is money is not a bad word. It's a tool.
And how do you challenge those like traditional narratives in the financial industry?
We're challenging it every single day. It's all about making sure that we're using the tools that the wealthy have, because that's one of the biggest things. Also, the wealthy do not use financial coaches, they do not use people that are not licensed. And so, even starting to work with a licensed financial advisor, you are challenging those narratives because it's always been in my industry shown as, hey, you have to have so much money in order to work with someone. You don't. You do not need to have the 250,000 in order to work with a financial advisor. You can start off small, and when you're starting small, you're actually pushing back that narrative that the system has is you're not deserving, and you are deserving of having professional help and guidance.
That's great. So, how can our listeners take the first step towards building their financial wealth right now?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, we need to define our goals first. Because if we don't know where we're going, how are we supposed to get there? Are you needing to save for retirement? Do you need to save for paying off debt? What are we trying to do with our money? So that's the first step. Then understanding where's our money going? Is it going to places that might not be maximizing our goals? And then once we understand that, then we can start building our savings and start shifting money into investment accounts. But that's the very first step that we should take is understanding where our money is going and defining our goals.
And then, what does inclusive wealth really look like?
So you mean on how we all have wealth or working with someone?
Talk about working with someone.
Okay. The financial industry is not inclusive. It is very exclusive. And that is why I started my firm because 80% of financial advisors are men. And when we're looking at building wealth as women in other communities, we need to have advisors that understand them, understand what their priorities are, how they communicate, and what their ultimate goals are and challenges. Finding someone that understands what you ultimately want is super important when we're building wealth, and that creates inclusiveness.
That's great. That's great. So, what does it look like to work with you, Karla? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I have, like I shared earlier, I have a very wide range of clients all over the country. And what I really focus on is the education behind the why. And what that means is when I'm working with you, I look at what are your ultimate goals? How are we going to reach there? How are we going to maximize your wealth? And share with you how we actually do it. So I'm not just saying, hey, throw your money into an investment account or throw it into a life insurance policy or whatever that looks like. I'm educating you on these types of vehicles and then also why we're doing certain things. So you're not actually giving up control, you're gaining more control in your financial wealth building journey because now you understand why you're doing certain things. And I actually listen and I want to make sure that everyone is heard when it comes to building wealth. There's not just one strategy to build wealth. And if you want to have investment properties or just different businesses or have charitable gifting endeavors, there's we can structure your wealth in a way that feels good to you, not what my prerogative is. So that's how I work with my clients.
That's great. That's so important. And that's really great to hear. I think our listeners will appreciate that. Can you tell our listeners, first of all, before we switch gears here, where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm all over the socials. So I have
Right.
Instagram, I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook. My website is artemiswealth.net. And you can follow me on those pages as well as I'm a guest on different podcasts. And so, yeah, you can come and find me there.
That's great. And now I understand were you recently on a women's retreat in Italy?
No, I am planning a women's retreat in
You're
Italy.
planning.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is it's a different endeavor that I have. It's called Business Women with Essence. And we are going to have a luxury rest retreat for women that are just trying to relax and they're fatigued from making constant decisions. They also want to be in a room of other powerhouse women. So this will be in May, middle of May of 2026. So if you want more information, you can also visit the website Business Women with Essence.
Love that. Love that. And can you share your financial information about your financial empowerment workshops that you do?
Yeah, so I don't have any coming up yet, but you can always follow me on social media and you can visit my website. I do a lot of workshops privately. Business owners, companies, groups, they ask me to speak at their workshops. And so I just did one last week and I have one next week. And I do workshops worldwide as well. So you can either visit my website and ask me for different topics that I can speak on. And then if there's any public ones coming up, you can also see that information on my website.
Excellent. That's great. Do you have anything else that you would like to share that you haven't already talked about or that you would like to reiterate to our listeners?
I think that the biggest thing that I want to reiterate is hiring a professional is not giving up control. You're actually gaining more control. And a lot of clients see all this misinformation that is online on social media about how to build wealth. That is very blanket information. It's good to understand, but that's not a recommendation. And working with any professional is going to get you closer to your goals than trying to do it on your own. That's what I would
That's
recommend.
great advice. That's great advice. What an incredible conversation with Karla Ukman. A reminder that wealth isn't just about dollars, it's about direction, confidence, and control. Whether you're building generational wealth for the first time or rewriting your financial story, remember the power to create freedom starts with one intentional step. If this episode inspired you, share it with a friend who's ready to take charge of their financial future. Until next time, I'm Deidre Quinn. Together we unlock the possibilities. Thanks for tuning in to Pending and Trending. Thanks for tuning in to Pending and Trending. Remember, generational wealth doesn't happen by accident, it happens by action. If you like today's episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and let's keep elevating your journey together.